Hello everyone, I am Ritu Kapoor and today I'm going to discuss on my work a defect estimator for source code linking defect reports with programming construct usage metrics. This work is done under the supervision of Professor Balwinder Sodhi, who is the faculty at Indian Institute of Technology, Roper, and was my PhD supervisor. This is one of my PhD works and this is published in ACM 2000. So let's first of all get into the problem scenario of this work. So we all know that software development requires significant involvement of experts such as in various tasks where we need to estimate the software development effort or identify the defects. The personal attention of experts is very important. So one of the study also reports that 40% of the software life cost is related to maintenance. Now, this also leads us to the dependency on experts, where we require various experienced developers to train the newcomers. Also, the cost of a skilled software developer is high. And another shortcoming this leads us to is that success of a software project gets restricted to the skill set and experience of the team members and the experts involved. So therefore, we feel it is very desirable to, have an automated solution for defect prediction, which helps in performing the task in a quick manner, but with a reasonable accuracy and precision. So let's then define the notion of defectiveness. When I say defectiveness, what do I actually mean? So defectiveness includes two significant things. First, the likelihood of finding any defects in a given source code. And if the source code is defective, what are the different kinds of defect characteristics that may be present in the source code? So for example, are the defects related to a certain priority type? Are they related to enhancement and so on? So the focus over here is on the non-functional requirement aspects such as quality, reliability, performance, etc. The slide also presents an example of inefficient coding style versus efficient coding style. Let's now have a look on some of the examples related to defects from non-functional aspects. So for example, the first one talks about the performance type, where this is taken from Apache Bugzilla, which states that the defect report title states that Batik inside of Eclipse using bridge memory heap causes crash. Now, this is something related to performance. Similarly, XML vulnerabilities in Python, this is related to security type. So now the hypothesis of our work was that to check if the various programming construct choices made by developers actually impact the software quality of the product delivered at the end. But now, in order to fetch those programming construct choices, we actually needed some programming construct matrix, which fetch those usages by looking to the source code at the deep level. So therefore, this is when we came up with PROCON metrics, which are programming construct matrix, which measure the lexical properties associated with programming constructs at count, depth, and length level. So for example, if I take an example of if programming construct, then what is the count of if in the programming fragment that I'm considering? How many times does the if occur? What is the depth of if in, let's say, the abstract syntax tree of the programming fragment when we pass it? What is the length in terms of the character count, excluding the spaces? So finally, when we take the max, min, average, and standard deviation of these values at file, function, and class level, that is what we term as PROCON metric values. This is an example of ANTLR generated abstract syntax tree, which we use to fetch the depth values. Now, for our tool, we considered it to work in two phases. The tool works in two phases. In the first phase, for a given input source file, it checks the likeliness of it to be defective or not. Now, if the source file is found to be defective, it then checks the different defect characteristics. For example, what is the probability of a particular defect to be of critical priority type, and so on. Let's take a broad idea of our approach. So for our approach, we extract different open source software repositories, from GitHub, and the corresponding bug reports from 4 bug tracking engines, which are Apache, GCC, Eclipse, Bugzilla, and Python Bug Tracker. These, when provided as input to the PROCON dataset builder, basically the dataset builder builds the PROCON dataset by fetching the PROCON metrics values and the metadata from different bug reports, building a mapping between them to check which of the files are defective or not. And this, when fed to the DESCO system, which trains various machine learning models to perform defect prediction on these language-specific PROCON datasets, provides the different defect estimates for any given input source file by the end user. So the major software artifacts here are the PROCON dataset and the DESCO tool. These are the details of the source files present in various datasets. We have 4 datasets as mentioned before. And for example, the C dataset has 6,448 files which were used for training the model. These are the details of the defect reports fetched from different bug tracking engines. Now let's discuss some of the striking results or some of the major observations. So we obtained the best performance by training a supervised deep belief network classifier on Python dataset, and the best accuracy was 95.96%. We considered 2 accuracy measures. The first one was F1 score and the other one RFC area measure. So we take the average of both. And one of the favorable parameter, ML technique parameter combination was SVM with radial kernel and so on. The non-advisable one were like SVM classifier with polykernel, etc., because we achieved very low accuracy scores for this. So one major key inference from our results was that different machine learning algorithms emerge as best performing for predicting different types of defect characteristics. This could be due to the different nature of programming construct, usages, data used for training the models. We compared our approach at state-of-the-art approach level and dataset level. So when compared with one of the state-of-the-art approach, DESCO outperformed it in 50 out of 54 parameter combinations with highest mean accuracy score of 80.8% and an improvement of 44.9%. Similarly, when compared with Promise repository at dataset level, it achieved an improvement of 19.46%. This is our tool interface, which essentially lists out the results for the input file requests.c. So for example, it lists that the file is likely to be defective with an accuracy of 80.8% with an error of 0.003%. So finally, I conclude my talk by stating that the work proposes PROCON Metrics, which are a novel programming construct matrix which capture the programming construct usage information present in various software artifacts. Also, we develop various machine learning models, PROCON dataset, and the software used for manipulating these software artifacts. And finally, we combine machine learning models and our dataset to develop our expert system, DESCO, which has a reasonable accuracy and outperforms the existing works. Thank you all for attending my talk, and I'm up for the questions, and you may also contact me later on these links. Thank you.